Welcome to the Common Sense Investing, or CSI Show, with Victor McClure and Guy Allard from McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies. Victor and Guy will use their combined 60-plus years of experience to answer your financial questions with their own brand of plain-spoken language and hard-hitting style.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show. I'm Victor McClure.
I'm Guy Allard. Looks like the dog days of summer are kind of hitting us early this year.
Oh, yeah. I went cheap on my landscaping stuff because I always hired people to do the landscaping.
Ruh-roh.
But then I figured out when I went to Lowe's, it was like $100 for these same plants instead of charging me $1,500. So I decided
then you didn't go cheap.
That's right. So I decided, I decided to do it myself this year.
All right, got it.
And my back is still screaming from it. So my wife said, "You look like the biggest nerd she's ever seen." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "You had a back brace on, knee pads on because you're going to dig down the and then I think I had black socks from work." So you know what's happening? Something's going on with your mind when you don't care at all.
Have you noticed the water bills have like doubled?
Yeah, this May was more like a June.
We didn't get much rain at all this spring.
Wow. Lately we got a little bit at nighttime lately, but you haven't got any, right?
No, I heard some hail coming around town though.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that far from you in Carrollton, Northern Carrollton, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't far from you. But no, my $40,000 roof doesn't have to be replaced again. I think I need to change occupations to a roofer because I'm thinking, well, all right, $40,000 roof. What does the shingles cost? A couple grand maybe? I know they're not paying them workers $100 an hour, so I figure they might have 10 grand the whole thing. That's a pretty good profit margin.
That's a great profit margin.
You know,
obviously they don't have any compliance to deal with or accountability.
No, it's weird. So I've always insurance companies are pretty good at stabbing them for, but I guess they haven't done it in this. You go to a doctor, the doctor charges $1,000. They say, well, your discount's down to $200, and we'll give you $100 out of that. So who knows? Every time I ever go to the hospital, I look at that bill, and I'm like, because I always want to blame insurance companies. Oh, those dirty rats. But, man, when they charge me $16,000 for day surgery, just the hospital part, not the doctor part, not the anesthesia, just the hospital part, I'm like, well, they go, oh, there's skilled stuff here. Just think, I go, I was there for 4 hours. You charge $16 grand.
Oh, yeah. So, everyone's got their nose in the trough, too, right? You got an anesthesiologist, you got the facility, you've got the doctor, you got the
if any of them are out of network, that screws the whole thing up.
Yeah, and then all sorts of supplies are needed. They send you home with a grocery bag full of stuff that you're never going to use.
That's how I got that back brace.
Oh,
they said, you need something. I had this years ago.
Right.
And I said, sure. It was $1,700. It's a piece of like a armor goes on your back or whatever. You strap it around. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That must be a great piece of armor.
Yeah, I didn't have to pay it, but I was saying, now I know why insurance is ridiculous. Now that you get a hailstorm every other day in Dallas, we were just talking to some people this last week from Scottsdale.
Yep.
And I asked them, what do you pay for? I said, I pay $400 a month for insurance on the house. They go, about $400 a year.
That was wow. That was on $1 million home.
Yeah. So
we pay about $400 a month.
We do pay the most of any other place. There's more lost damage in northern Texas than anywhere else in the country.
But we don't have the prices and the inflation that they do either, though, right?
I don't know.
I don't think.
I know not California, but I don't know Scottsdale.
I think it's pretty reasonable to buy a house at least in the Dallas area right now.
Yeah.
Not like it was a couple 3 years ago, but.
Well, the reason why we're talking about a lot of this stuff is in retirement, what are the things people fear? Well, the number one thing people fear is if they're going to have enough money.
They're not
going to run out. More people are scared of running out of money than dying, which is kind of weird. Another thing a lot of people fear is Medicare. What are the premiums going to get to that thing? And Social Security. That's what brings up today's topic.
Tuesday, which is Social Security will run out. I was going to mention briefly Thursday morning on the Maria Bartiromo show, Fox Business, which I'll watch usually in the morning when I'm fixing breakfast or putzing around getting ready. They were talking about millennials again, and it was amazing. They said that 70%, 80%, I think 80%, but let's go 70% of millennials expect to inherit some money to bridge the gap so that they could live in retirement. But as shocking as that may be or may not be, what they didn't hesitate, they didn't qualify, they didn't really go into it in depth. But the reason was they said, well, Social Security won't be there for them.
Right.
Didn't say may not be, didn't say means test, didn't say be different. They said Social Security will not be there for them. Usually there's some sort of qualification, right? And they explain, and well, it'll be they said it won't be there. And that's the first time I've heard definites like that.
Every time I see a millennial study, I crack up every single time. That last one was that 78% believe they're going to be rich. 78%. Yet 80% of them still live at home.
Yeah. They're starting to buy homes now, I think, and such. But.
I was like, 78% going to be rich. You realize not even 0.1% gets rich, but 78% of them are going to be rich. I was like, okay. They, like I said, there's a huge percentage still live at home and all that kind of stuff, and we're hiring people now. So I've interviewed a lot of millennials, and some of them definitely break that kind of mold. Some of them definitely don't. And so we can't blame them, folks. Guy and I are baby boomers.
Yep.
Who raised the millennials?
Ouch.
By trying to keep them from going through similar hardships we might have. We insulated them, right? My kids have never wanted or needed anything. Now, I thought it was a good thing at the time because of all the hardship I went through growing up in the bad parts of Dallas. But now looking back, are they really prepared for hardship?
You know, it's funny in doing the pre-interviews with them and getting them weeded down a little bit. Politics aside, but I'd tell them, I'd say, listen, we're looking for excitement, someone that's conversational, that can talk with people, work ethic, and all of that dictates. And you slip, but I said, isn't capitalism a wonderful thing? I said, we'll hire 3 people, 1 will work out. And of the ones that work out, 20%, 2 out of every 10 will do 80% of the production or of the work. And those are real numbers because some want it more. They work harder, right? Right. Others get to comfort levels, kind of like retirement. Others get to, maybe 100,000 is enough a year for them, maybe 200, but maybe 500. But it's that old 80-20 rule, right? You hire 3, 1 works out. And of the 1, when you get 10 of those, 2 of them are going to do the work, or 80% of the work of all 10.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this the other day. When I started working full-time, basically, it was 13 years old. I told them I was 16, of course. You didn't have to have a Social Security card and all that stuff. They didn't check.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They asked me to be the manager at 13.
I had a paper route. I remember getting a Social Security card for the paper route.
One of the main reasons was I wanted to eat because we were eating mayonnaise sandwiches for dinner sometimes and all. But see, those kind of chips, these kids have never experienced. Yeah. Everything was given to them. If you just ask long enough, you'll get it. You don't have to do anything for it. You just get it. I knew if I didn't go to work, I wouldn't eat. I felt bad because I used to work out a lot, I was young and I was starting to get big. My brother and sister, which didn't work yet because they were younger, were skinny as a rail, and I'm like, okay, I got to bring food for them. That's one thing. And so, but they don't have those kind of decisions anymore. No, don't get me wrong. Around the country, they do. And I have met some millennials here lately from the interview process that still came from that, and they seem hungry. But it's hard to get somebody hungry when they have never really experienced,
But you really appreciate capitalism when you're in the hiring process, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone isn't created equal, but the one thing that levels the playing field is work ethic, right? The harder you work, the luckier you can get. And some of the people, you'd be surprised that they don't have the education, they don't have the background, but man, they'll work their tail off, and they outshine everyone.
Oh, I know. Oh,
and they don't feel entitled.
Yeah, you notice it just going to McDonald's. One worker's there, slow as crap, and the other one's like jumping around. Yes, sir, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's right.
You always notice it's there. That's what I'm looking for, those guys right there, those gals right there, right?
That's it.
All right, let's get back to the topic. They were announced this week that Medicare, they had to dip into the Medicare fund sooner than they expected. They're supposed to dip into it. It is going to be completely depleted. This is the hospitalization part.
Yep.
Okay? Was that part A? By 2026, which is 8 years away.
That's just when I'm going to be getting on it. Damn it.
And we're not talking about Medicaid. We're talking about Medicare, which every person 65 and over is probably on.
You got to be on.
And so they're saying that fund will be completely depleted. Now, the new payroll that's coming out, because remember the boomers are starting to retire, the one shining thing on the millennials is actually they're a
lining.
bigger group, silver lining, there you go, bigger group than the baby boomers. But even then, it's not going to basically mean nobody has insurance at 2026.
No, we'll just increase the debt.
Right.
We'll borrow money from China.
They said basically to go down to 78% coverage in 2039, 85%. So it's a percentage, so they can lower benefits by raising your, Medicare Part A premiums and all that kind of stuff. Means testing the crap out of it, so people that make more got to pay a whole lot more. But that could show increases in your Medicare supplement policies, all kinds of things. But that means that fund. The Congress can come out and say we're going to pay it out of a general fund or whatever, which I think they will, unless it really depends on if they're fiscally conservative people or fiscally liberal people in office. Because I promise you, I can't imagine fiscally liberal people cutting benefits of any type. I can't imagine raising prices, raising taxes. That's probably going to happen. And so one of your biggest things, you get sick, you don't have insurance, that rolls into our, retirement, what retirees fear. Another thing, Social Security dipped into their Social Security fund to pay for the program. In other words, since 1982, all the revenue coming in, that 7% or 6% for Social Security and the 6% the company pays, there's another 1.5% for Medicare.
Right.
So 7.5% around there.
Right.
Well, that has more than paid for the cost of Social Security until today. And now it's a reverse. In other words, now there's a lot of money in this fund, right? They're having to spend that money down. It will be completely depleted by 2034. Now, for those of you 50 and 60 years old, right, think about it. That's when you're like 78, 76, when you really need it, right?
In 2034, I got news for you. You're going to be 70, and I'm going to be 74.
That's exactly when you need the thing.
That's
right?
what you want to take. You wait to 70, you get all the raises, right?
Right.
The 8% a year raise if you wait from full to 70.
And that's what they have is there's also a trustee with the disability benefits. That'll be completely exhausted by 2032. When you've got, it's all basically, it wouldn't be completely broke because new people every day are putting more money in. But you're talking about 20, 30, 40% cuts. And so how do you protect yourself against something like that? If they do have Medicare premium doubles or triples, and what if at the same time, because it looks like either one of these, how long did it take to get some kind of tax reform? 30-something years? And this is staring them in the face. Now, what does Congress do? Does Congress say, okay, we got this problem coming in 2026 and 2034. Let's handle that now. Has that ever happened?
Never.
No.
Oh, wait a second. We got an election cycle coming up. Can't do it now.
Yep. The 1 year that you can do it between the election cycle, because the other one they're gearing up for.
Well, it takes them more than a year to get anything done, so yeah.
So they're not going to do anything on this, any of it, until a long time, right before.
Yep.
Right before, because what they're going to have to do is, like I said, increase the debt, pay more taxes, all that kind of stuff.
We got the right guy in there now to take care of it, though. I'm just saying.
There's just all kinds of these things that are coming out that it makes people fearful of retirement. There's one other thing I'll tell you. There's all these articles now that have been written out. What is the worst time to retire? The worst possible time to retire in any century or anything.
After a 9-year bull run in the market.
That's right. And that says anything after like 5 years, 4 or 5 year bull run.
Yeah.
Anything at like that 9 year makes it even worse, right?
Yep.
Because if you look at actuarially or statistically, if you have any bear market in your first 5 years or 10 years of retirement, it is almost impossible to recover if you have a large percentage in stocks, which most of us have a decent percentage in stocks. If you don't have any, if you could retire at CDs at 1%, you're fine. Ignore this part of the conversation. But most of us don't. They need some better interest than a 1% CD.
And if I could interject, because, we always talk about rebalancing and, the old college financial planners, they talked about the rule of 100, right? If you're 60, you take your age from 100, 60 from 100 leaves 40. 40% of your money is probably the most that you should have at risk in the market. All of that stuff works fine if you have enough money. We're using that same example, 60 from 100, you got 40 in the market, you got 60 generating income for you and liquidity. That works fine for you if 60% of what you have, let's say it's $1 million, easy numbers, is $600,000. If that $600,000 is enough to cover your first two buckets, which are liquidity, right? So you probably want to have $100,000 give or take ish. That leaves $500,000 for income. Does that $500,000 cover your income? If it doesn't, then you have to change the plan to work for you. So all these rules that we talk about are guidelines, and you really need to kind of go through and have our analyzer show you if those numbers work for you. Your numbers may be different. They may be 50-50, maybe 70-30, but it all depends on how much money you have, whether that percentage really works for you.
What you've got to do is you also have to think, you have to protect yourself against inflation. You have to protect yourself. What if Medicare does cost more?
That's right.
I doubt it's going to cost less. What if Social Security does get cut or means tested? So what you've done is some people have done a deal where, remember that 4% rule. I had another radio host talking about it last week. Everything's on the 4% rule. The only thing they forgot is that rule was revised at the end of 2013. So 2.8% was the only safe withdrawal rate.
And that gives you a little margin for error, right?
That's right. So whatever it is, say 3 or 4%. But you're assuming Social Security is going to go up the whole time. You're assuming your Medicare, most retirement plans, if you do them correctly, you've got some kind of inflation in there. The problem with that is you're going to have like 2.5% inflation as an average. But medical inflation is more like in the 7% range.
Crazy, right?
6% range. And that's what we're talking about. What if they raise these premiums 6, 7, 8% a year? Remember, this is when all of these been going up 7% a year. When the Medicare fund was paying out, it wasn't going to exhaust. Now that it's going to exhaust, you can count on something's going to cost you more. It's either going to be lower Social Security, higher premiums, or both. So how do you protect yourself against something like that? Because you have to think about it. I got people all the time, nope, I need $6,000 a month out of my portfolio, take Social Security on it. I've got $1,000 extra a month. I was like, there's no inflation in this. Just at 2.5%, your expenses are going to go up like 40, 50% in 15 years. And he goes, well, I'll be 80. Nobody ever lived past 80. I'm like, oh, really? Medical science has changed a lot since your parents were 80.
And this is really getting underneath the microscope. You know, getting underneath the magnifying glass is when you think you can generate that 6 or 7% because you're counting on the market. We've talked about doing 6 or 7%. That's a leap. But that's not as big as a leap as when you even refine it more and get underneath a microscope and see what really is going to happen, the changes in the cost.
So that's what you want to, like, what we'll do a lot of times, we'll have a certain plan, right?
Yep.
But then if you want to adjust it correctly, that's why I don't like the black box plans. Fidelity has a black box. What's average market, below average? Well, the market's made half of the average. Is that below?
Yeah.
So there's no way to tell. With our programs, we'll dial it in exactly. Let's make medical stuff a 7% inflation. Let's make food, because food doesn't go up as much, maybe that 1.5 or 2. So we can do those kind of things and tweak everything in between to get you a more accurate picture. And then let's stress test this even further. Let's go, what if Social Security gets cut? Because people don't realize if Social Security gets cut, that's a big deal. Because since most people lost their pensions years ago, that is the main source of guaranteed income in retirement. What does that mean? Does that mean I need to get more aggressive with my stocks? No, you probably need to get more guaranteed income. Income is king.
Victor was talking about 2.8%. Let's round it up to 3% as far as a withdrawal rate from your account. Think about it. If you're getting $30,000 a year from Social Security, right, which is under $3,000 a month, if you're getting $30,000 a year and you're using a 3% rule, and you lose that or a portion of that, it takes $1 million of cash to replace that income.
Right. So
traditionally.
Right. So that's why it's really tough. Now, the pensions, a lot of people are worried about their pensions. Once a pension is started, I've never heard of somebody getting screwed. Now, if you haven't started income yet, I've heard of many of them going back to the Pension Benefit Guarantee Association, everything else, and getting reduced. But if you're already on the pension, that doesn't worry me nearly as much, because the insurance company, when they started that particular annuity, had all these factors in, they had the reserves and all that stuff. It's not like Congress funding Social Security or Medicare. Okay, so you're probably okay there. You do have to worry somewhat about Social Security and worry about Medicare premiums. Those two things right there can affect your retirement a lot.
We didn't start the show out, Victor, to be a shock and awe and scare the listeners, so that's not where we're going. But as long as we're talking about this stuff, just for awareness, there's a lot, and I'm afraid to guess at the percentage, a lot of pensions, including municipalities, that are way underfunded.
The one thing we do is less than 10% of people have a formal written retirement plan.
Right.
I'll talk to people, and I'll tell you about 50 to 70% they have one. I said, I'd like to see it, because maybe I can help it. They don't have it, or it's some 2-page deal or some generic. Hey, you got $1 million bucks, as long as it makes 10% a year, you're fine. I go, that's not a financial plan.
Exactly.
That's a financial hope. So if it makes 10, okay, let me put that in perspective. Market's gone up 9 years in a row. It's only made 5% for the last. So we're going to double the return, and we're going to have, for your 30 years of retirement, plus the 9, so 39 up years in a row. And you're fine. Of course you're fine. That doesn't tell you anything. That's the worst plan I've ever heard.
And the problem, and we used to talk about it a lot on the old shows, back on KRLD, there's 2 types of retirement, right? There's the guaranteed retirement, and there's the non-guaranteed. The problem for you guys, for the listeners, the non-guaranteed retirement is sexier, and it draws you to it more than the guaranteed. For example, if you had $1 million, maybe let's say in fixed annuities, sometimes we can get that deferred a few years to generate $100,000. If you have $1 million in the stock market and they're projecting these great returns, they offer a much higher rate of return than is realistic. But the difference is, even though it comes across as a higher, better rate of return, it's not guaranteed.
No, it's a weird thing. People get entrenched in their ideals.
Sure.
Or they're,
we don't, of course.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
They get entrenched in this idea, they love stocks, they hate stocks. They love annuities, they hate annuities. They love insurance, they hate insurance. All these different things and they cloud your judgment. Because what happens is, money, when you get retired, money is only retirement is only good as how much income it'll produce, Now, don't get me wrong. Let's take back. I want to leave a legacy for family and all that stuff. I'm just talking about your day-to-day living for 95% of the public. It's how much income you produce. What produces more income? The rise of annuities, and the rise of the hating annuities and loving annuities over the last 20 years it's not by happenstance. It is because interest rates are so low, and people need to get more income per dollar out of the dollars they have saved.
And like you always say, if you hear someone that hates annuities, there's a reason. It's a subjective point of view. They don't make money if you do annuities. They're pushing something else. If you got someone that absolutely loves them and it's the best thing no matter what you're looking at, that's because that's all they offer. So you have to find a fair and balanced, unlike our politics, a fair and balanced view.
Right. And I just did a plan for someone this week. And I was the first one telling them, you don't have to do anything. Even with inflation and everything else, with the amount of money you're spending and the amount of money you've saved, you are perfectly fine. The only thing that could derail this retirement at this point is a huge loss. And so that person, a lot of people say, well, the first thing I'm going to do is do this. No, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you if you're okay. They were perfectly fine. And I said, now, can we adjust this to even make it better? Do you want to leave more for retirement, or is it going to make you feel more psychologically if you had more in the bank accounts when you're retired? I've got 4 kids. I said, kids, you're welcome to every dime I don't spend, right?
Right.
And so leaving a legacy is not that important to me. But if it's important to you, that's fine too. You just got to put that in your plan. But we're offering this written retirement plan free of charge, no obligation, and it is the most comprehensive retirement plan I've ever seen. I've seen multitudes of them, and none of them come close to this. You can dial in every single variable individually, which very, very few allow that.
And don't confuse all of that. Comprehensive is the word. It does all that for you, but it's not confusing. It's not It's not painful. It just breaks everything down year by year, as you're 69, as you're 70, as you're 70, all the way down, and it shows you. And it's really easy for us to highlight a number, change it, and it boom, 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 it changes everything on the spreadsheet. So you can see on the fly. And once you have this and you have it in place with us, 5 years, 10 years down the road, things change. And we plug in another number, and we can make adjustments to make sure that it's constantly up to date and working for you.
Yeah, like I said, call us at 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. Or go to ilovemyretirement.com. Call us, and like I said, we can send you the questionnaire, the start the analysis, or if you just want to ask us questions, that's what we've both been doing for 30-something years, is answering people's questions. And I promise you, I'm not going to recite the Greek alphabet to how this this thing returns versus anything
Not
else.
our goal to confuse you.
That's right. I will talk in plain spoken language that everybody can understand. And that's why, like I said, neither one of us had a complaint in 30 years each.
So
That's
Victor,
tough to do at this point.
what are you going to do? We're going to get all these plans. We've got a great deal of them out there now. Clients are on course, got a little buffer, got inflation taken care of, and Social Security comes along, and if nothing else, they cut it in half. And we got to take $15,000 a year off of those plans and make adjustments.
Some of them would be tight.
It will. Some
Other
will
ones would be okay.
Right.
Then you have to say, all right, I need more income per dollar out of some other piece. I might have to take some out of my liquidity piece or out of my growth piece and stuff to secure that extra income. But that's the only reason, like I said, annuity is probably good for that because you get more income per dollar.
Right.
So you can take $100,000 out of the stock piece instead of $300,000.
And
it's up to you.
And it's guaranteed. The number is an absolute.
So think about that when you're retired. You got to think about these things. What about Social Security? The other thing people worry about, justifiably so, long-term care.
Yeah.
There's like I think it's a 5% or 1% chance, really low, that your house is going to burn down, but nobody would think about not having fire insurance on your house. There's like a 78% chance you're going to need long-term care at some point, yet 1% of people have long-term care insurance. Your Medicare don't pay for it. Now, you can be completely broke and go through a lot of stuff, because I've had personal experience with this, and get Medicaid to pay, after you're in the worst one you've ever seen, because they only have so many Medicaid beds at these different places. And they're not going to be the nice places. But, maybe you'll be so far gone at that point you won't care, but I doubt that. I don't want my family member living there, and you probably don't either.
It's not a pleasant picture, right?
No. So you got to think about all those things. And is Medicare, long-term care insurance cheap? No, it's not.
And the longer you wait and the sicker we become,
that's right,
the more expensive it is.
Now, there are ways to do it where you don't have to, pay these huge premiums. You can do it through some of the life insurance policies and some of that kind of stuff. That's the new way a lot of people, even some annuities, have that long-term care benefit. The reason why they would do that instead, because what it earns minus the cost of the policy, this premium is built in. So if you don't end up using the long-term care, the money's sitting in there. Right. So you didn't miss out. You didn't have to pay $50,000 in premiums over 20 years and never use the thing. So there are ways to do that, and we can show you a lot of different ways to get some kind of long-term care benefit. Because think about it. Just think about it. One thing. You saved $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever the number is, and you got a certain amount of bills. Usually both of them don't go to a nursing home at once. It's one of them, right? So something happens, God forbid. Go to the nursing home. Now, you didn't plan for another $7,000 a month in expenses. On top of the other ones, you still have your other expenses. I
was going to say, the person that doesn't go to the nursing home is the one that really has the burden.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So they still got to pay the same bills. Electric bill is going to be the same. They may have a little less food, but it's not as much as you think. Typically, one spouse dies, it's about 85% of the expenses are left. So about 85%, they haven't died in this case, but 85%. Now at $7,000 a month. Now, think about that $7,000 a month. What was that 20 years ago?
Yeah.
$3,000 a month?
That's right.
So when you might need that, when we're 80, let's say, is it going to be $10,000, $12,000 a month? Did you plan for anything like that? In other words, you had this plan. You had $8,000 a month in bills. You're going to have $9,000 coming in. You've done everything again. Whammo, you got another $7,000 a month in expenses coming out. That's why you got to plan this stuff really, and you got to try to get as much, because there are a lot of people that have a lot extra, but they refuse to buy insurance. And I'm like, you realize how much
no one likes to buy insurance.
I hate insurance too.
I know it.
I go, you think I like paying $400 a month for my dang homeowner's insurance? That thing used to be $80, and this was like 10 years ago.
That's right.
The house is worth the same.
They've gone, pretty much.
Yeah, they go up and up and up.
Yep.
And so, but some things you just have to do. And so but your advisor should have already done this stuff with you. He should already give you a written retirement plan. He should have gone over this verse. If he hasn't, you call us at 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. Remember, you can always go to our website, ilovemyretirement.com. There's videos and all kinds of articles you're about interested in. Again, I'm Victor McClure for Guy Allard, but always appreciate your time.
The preceding show is paid for by McClure Capital and is for informational purposes only and not a solicitation or representation of any particular investment product or service. Any views and opinions do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult with your appropriate professionals before making any investment or savings decisions. Always consider your risk tolerance, time horizon, and objectives in making any financial decisions. There is never any guarantee of future success or performance.